on that note, Mr. Seán Kinane, welcome back. Welcome to your own venue this time.
Thank you.
To the podcast. We just had a moment there. I thought the world was crashing down the top of my head.
It's comical.
Yeah, the music shut off. Welcome back for another podcast number 5.
Thank you.
The reason we're doing podcast number 5 is every time I release a podcast with you, it blows up and people keep demanding more and more and more because you bring so much value to the table. So thank you very much.
No problem. My pleasure.
Two little stories. While I was driving over here, I was like, I got to tell Seán this story. I was driving in the overtaking lane, the M50, 3 lanes. About 100 yards ahead of me, there was a little like Corolla or something. And beside me, there was a Jeep. I was slowly overtaking the Jeep. And the Corolla starts to veer out of his lane. And he's going straight for the back of this big box van. And your man beside me starts flashing his lights. Your man veers, nearly hits the van, veers back, comes into my lane, and then comes back to the middle. And as I cruise by the car, he's watching TikTok videos.
No.
His phone is on the windscreen watching TikTok videos. So I nearly didn't make the podcast. My first question
I was like,
for you,
where's that going?
It's going nowhere.
What's that got to do with me?
It's got nothing to do with you, but I nearly didn't make it to the podcast.
It happened to us driving home from Cork. Someone
Did it,
watching
yeah?
TikTok videos as we drove by them.
TikTok.
Yeah,
like,
crazy. And this
madness.
is a grown man. Keelan's in the passenger
This was a
seat.
grown man as well.
He says he's watching TikToks.
Yeah.
He's veering into the hard shoulder.
He's one of the suction cup mounts, on the windscreen, almost in front of him, watching TikTok videos. My second question is 79 cents for 35 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Good bargain.
Yeah, no excuses. Anyone that tells you they can't afford to get protein,
Unbelievable.
It's full of
chocolate milk. I'll give the shout out. Got it in Lidl. Absolutely unbelievable.
what is it, 35? 35 grams of protein?
35 grams of protein.
79 cents?
Cannot beat it. That is value for money.
Load up.
Delicious as well.
3 of them a day, you're already nearly at your content.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, right. We'll get straight into this. We are going to cover a set of specific topics today. We're going to try and keep it nice and coherent and deliver a lot of value here.
Dan has his big clock.
I have the big clock on here now, so we're going to keep nice and strict on the time. But to kick us off, super hot topic at the moment, Zone 2 cardio. Every single health and wellness podcast, Zone 2 cardio. Get yourself a bike for underneath your desk, walk on a treadmill while you're doing your emails, etc., etc. Seán Kinane, explain to us, what exactly is Zone 2 cardio?
There's no Seán 2.
There's no Seán 2. What's Zone 2 cardio?
It's lucky we've time.
We have time.
Zone 2 is a concept that, when applied correctly to human physiology, will make a massive impact both on performance and health markers in all aspects. The problem with Zone 2 is a lot of Zone 2 is created using algorithms that aren't applicable to that as an individual or that human's physiology. So then the Zone 2 is inaccurate in what its journey is trying to achieve. So Zone 2 is low intensity cardiovascular training where your body's fully working aerobically, which we'll cover with you in a minute just to make sure we understand energy systems. So when you train aerobically, you decrease risk all-cause mortality, or Zone 2. You train at low intensity. So we're looking to do up to 90 minutes a week plus, and that's where them health markers are going to start to decrease. If we look at it from performance perspectives, this whole concept, train easy to train hard, you need to train at a level low enough where the body is using high levels of oxygen to create energy. You're efficient, you're durable, bioproductivity is low, sustainability is high. But the benefits in the background are you increasing stroke volume. So you're increasing the body's ability to deliver oxygenated blood in every beat of the heart. So if we can increase Zone 2 function or aerobic capacity, we can produce more force for less effort. So we go faster for less effort, produce more watts for less effort, we run faster for less effort. Zone 2 facilitates adaptation. Zone 2 facilitates recovery. Zone 2 allows us to consistently train without breaking down. So there's massive benefits in doing Zone 2, but the problem starts to lie when your Zone 2 and my Zone 2 and everyone else's Zone 2 is completely different. So what ends up happening, people then be undertrained or overtrained. There's more negative in overtrained than undertrained. I'll give you an example. A guy came in today and his Zone 2 was a lot higher than what he thought it was. And he said, so I've just wasted the last 6 months. And I'm like, no, you've done an amazing job of building this base. Now it's time to put the bricks on. And one of the big flaws is calculations and algorithms and predicted values that have people overtrained and undertrained. But before we get into zones, we need to understand energy systems. Constantly people come into me and go, Zone 2, and I'm a man of open-ended questions where I know people don't know the answer, because what I'm trying to do is play devil's advocate and highlight their inability to understand what they're doing. Not to be insulting in any way, shape or form, but for me, if you're somebody that's going to train diligently based on heart rate, you need to know why you're doing it, because the buy-in is not going to be there unless you're clued into why. So my questions to people are, okay, why do you do in Zone 2? Oh, because it makes me run faster. Why? How? So constantly probing. But for me, it boils down to, okay, we identify Zone 2 as aerobic. What does aerobic mean? Or what does anaerobic mean? So energy systems, we've two of them, aerobic and anaerobic. When we're aerobic, we're using a very high level of oxygen to create energy. So the body's trying to produce ATP, which is the currency of energy. And when we're aerobic, we do it efficiently. Bioproductivity is low, sustainability is high, and we can manage the intensity of that given exercise for very, very, very long periods of time. When the body starts to demand more energy, we can't do it aerobic dominant, we become anaerobic dominant. And again, to highlight, and I know we've covered it lots of times, it's not going with and without oxygen. It's like, it's not a light switch, it's a dimmer switch. So we now start to use less oxygen, more glycogen. So we start to produce energy at a much higher rate with lower levels of oxygen. But we're still using oxygen, we're just not using massive quantities of it. And now the body starts to produce and accumulate byproducts that aren't very favorable for endurance sport. They're going to create DOMs, they're going to create fatigue, you're going to increase risk of injury, cramp. There's going to be longer time needed between training sessions. You're going to start to develop a bit of oxygen debt. Now, we're not using oxygen, but we're not efficient in what we're doing. We're going to produce these byproducts. And at the end of the day, we're going to start to deplete glycogen storage. And the intensity of the activity when we're anaerobic is too high to sustain what we're trying to do. A lot of times, zone 2 is done too hard. So people can't buy into the concept of going, okay, I want you to go and run a marathon, but you've just negated from being a 5K runner. So someone that runs a 25-minute 5K has absolutely no right to run a 3:30 marathon. Although it's the same pace per kilometre, you're increasing your distance significantly. And if you're running a 25-minute 5K, you're not running that aerobically. And if you are, your PB isn't 25 minutes. You're significantly better than that. So there's loads of different things in zone 2. We can look at it from performance perspective, or we can look at it from a health perspective. So we know the likes of Peter Attia is banging the drum about 90 minutes zone 2, decreased risk all-cause mortality, because what you're doing is you're improving cardiovascular health. You're increasing that stroke volume, as we spoke about, and you're facilitating everything in relation to adaptation. But if you want to train long and want to run big distances and run ultras, you need to run comfortably. You need to run it aerobically, or you're going to have no hope of doing it. So when zone 2 is done right, it will bring all these rewards. The other side of it is zone 2 can be very frustrating. Zone 2 can be very humbling. Zone 2 isn't what people want it to be. Zone 2 isn't sexy for someone that's unconditioned. Had a guy in today, he has gone through a lot of serious illness over the last couple of years, and his base is completely gone. It's fell off, and he's struggling to do what he needs to do. So he come in and he's training at a really low level, and his heart, we've tested him today, and his heart rate zones are a lot higher than what he thought they were. So he thought he's undertrained, when realistically he's now started to build that base, and now it's time for him to put the bricks on. So zone 2 can be used for people that are looking to improve health, can looking to improve performance. But it's not sexy. It's not fast. Sometimes people are unwilling to do the work. And this is where the big issues lie with zone 2. If you have a zone 2 that's predicted for you, and you go in and do it, people are like, I have to walk. I can run much faster than that. But in the same breath, they tell you they're constantly injured. And they never finish their marathons in the time that they want to finish them in. Because everybody just wants to push and push and push and push and push. You have to train easy to train hard. And when you train easy to train hard, the quality of the training you do when you're on your on days significantly increases. The quality of life, your sleep, your irritability, your sex drive, your momentum, your willingness to work, whatever it is, having these spikes and the highs and lows in your training is magic what it does when you buy into it. But it takes discipline. And it's humbling. I've tested myself last year when I was started to train for the marathon. I had to run a 5:50. Like, my life is just run fast and everything I do is hectic. And it was very humbling. I'm nearly embarrassed. People running past me on the street and I'm like, what's going on here? Within 12 weeks, I had taken more than a minute off my threshold. So higher pace for lower effort because of that facilitation of growth and adaptation.
You could actually put another spin on this, because we talk a lot about performance, and obviously you're in the world of performance, but a lot of people who are listening to this are probably not in the performance world, and they're just trying to figure out how to feel better, and you listed a list of different areas of life that you can improve there as well. This is a good thing, because it means you don't have to go out and flog yourself.
Yeah.
Not 90 minutes of this relatively easy training is going to give you a very, very good base to start your
But also
your
look at
journey.
a great time of year to be talking about this. What are we, 9th of February?
Yeah.
I said today was the first day I noticed the gym emptying earlier. I was here at 7:15 this morning training,
the January
and I was like,
motivation.
yeah, it's falling off. Every single day I'm told I can't run. You can't run because you run too fast. And I have friends that are going to be listening to this, and anyone that knows me, I can make anyone run. I can make anyone run distance if you're willing to listen to me. Most people go, oh, I'm going to start running, and they leave the house and they shoot out the door. They get out of breath. They can't go. They're fatigued. They're tired. They don't keep it up. They hurt their leg. They had a shin splint. When realistically, I'm like, all right, see that cover? If you're covering, let's say 2K in 14 minutes. No, let's do 12 minutes. And then I say, all right, I want you to cover 2K in 16 minutes. And they're like, I did 2K without stopping. Of course you did 2K without stopping, because what you've done is you've allowed your body to work aerobically rather than anaerobically. And when people start on a journey, so like this, where you have a massive positive impact on your well-being, it's because the ability to sustain it significantly increases. So when you improve, or when you adhere to running aerobically or cycling aerobically or any sport, we're not just highlighting running, the same principles apply here. The adherence to consistently turn up significantly increase. And if we have a more consistency in our training load week in, week out, we increase the quality of our life all around us.
Okay.
So it's about understanding the journey, that it takes time. This couch to 5K stuff, brilliant. But again, understanding it's a journey. Or people that think they're going to run 100K races in less than a year, it's the ability to go in and run nice and slow. Being able to turn up every single day. If you turn up day one and run, let's say, a 20-minute 5K, and then you're out for 6 days because your legs hurt, and then you go out and you do 3K fast under, 12 minutes, you're out for another 5 days. What if you did 5K easy, 5K easy, 5K easy, 5K easy? The accumulation of good quality miles allows for your ability to grow. Zone 2 training won't always be slow. Zone 2 training won't always be what you want it to be. And the other end of it is Zone 2 training for some people is significantly higher than what they think. The likes of one of the athletes that's sponsored by myself, Mickey Fox at the moment, one of the things he always says about me is day one he came into me and I told him, you're running too slow. This man's going to break 220 this year. He just tried sub 15-minute 5K. And I'm telling him that he's running too slow on his easy stuff. So there's the other side of it where people are coming in and they're being held back in this Zone 2 because of their calculations or their algorithms. When realistically, and the big thing that we always talk about is everybody is different. Everybody.
For athletes, obviously it's a lot more specific, right? Because you're talking times and pace and stuff like that. To pull it back from athletes again, just for a second, for the average person, understanding that everyone's going to be different and everyone's going to have their ranges, need to get tested, etc. 90 to 180 minutes is what I've kind of heard as this for health benefits, for decreased risk of all-cause mortality, etc. What in general does that look like in a week? Like, how do you split that up? Could it be 20 minutes a day?
No,
Could it be...
Realistically, you need to, like for me, I would always say I want 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
But a lot of people say at least 30. And I can buy into that. If we can do 3:30s, do 2:45s, 3:20s and a 30, whatever you can do at the start, I would ideally like 30 to 40 minutes.
And for untrained populations, could that be a walk?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Like the example of the guy I had in today that had fought through various different illnesses, his aerobic base building has to be a walk.
Okay.
Because he's not aerobically developed to run yet.
And that will change.
Oh, without question.
And that will change by doing more Zone 2.
Yep, because that will allow for stroke volume to increase, which is the delivery of oxygenated blood in every beat of the heart. So if we can deliver more oxygen for less effort, aerobic capacity grows, which means you can then perform at a higher level. That's the first notice of adaptation, or the first notice of growth when you do Zone 2. So you run faster for lower heart rate. You cover more distance for less time, but your heart rate stays the same. On a bike, you produce more power. In a pool, you're doing better splits, but you're still aerobic. And these are the buy-ins I ask for people. I ask you to give me 12 weeks. Like, it's not going to happen. You're going to take a week to get a monitor. It's going to take 2 weeks for you to start to look at your watch and understand it and not be falling into the calculations and the colours, like looking at live number. So if we can get 12 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks for people, they will notice a significant difference. But really good about it is their speed work gets better. People are like, I'm running faster 5Ks because I'm running easier stuff. The reason when you do easy stuff, you can train harder. So you're going into the race fresher. You're producing more force on your on days, your stimulating days. So the quality of the work goes up. The facilitation to grow goes up. And people struggle to get their head around it at the start. But look, I'm nearly 13 years in business, nearly 20,000 tests later. I could list you thousands of athletes that I've made. I haven't made them better. I've told them what to do to get better, and they've gone and done it.
Yeah.
Like, there's lists and lists and lists of people that do it. But it's not sexy, and I'll keep highlighting this. It's not what you post on social media. There's really good athletes that I know I personally guide in their training that post their fast stuff, but don't post their slow stuff. And I'm like, man, get that stuff posted. That's what's going to get people bought into this a lot more. Look at Kipchoge. He runs 80% of his runs with the boys in the village. 6-minute kilometers. This fella's going to break 2 hours for a marathon. But 80% of his work is done in this so-called low-intensity zone 2 because he's facilitating this growth or this stage of growth. And it's just endless, the benefits of it.
Yeah. Let me give you another frame then, another situation. A lot of people listening to this, and let's acknowledge running is a terrible, terrible way to lose weight. It's a terrible way to lose weight. And exercise in general is not the best way to lose weight.
No.
It's obviously calorie management or whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will do their 5Ks in the weekend or whenever they can get it in during the week. And that's part of their weight loss regime. Why do you run? Get a bit fitter, lose a bit of weight. That's like 80% of people you talk to. And obviously that's a misnomer. That's not a smart way of doing it. However, if you were to look at going to do a 5K and like hammering yourself into the ground and doing a 5K and then going out for your coffee and you're just going afterwards to congratulate yourself, or making your 5K into zone 2, if that's the way you're going about it, it's probably a better way because you're working in that zone 2. It's probably a better way of moving towards your goal, I suppose, in terms of improving your general fitness, maybe losing a little bit more weight for the type of work that you're putting in compared to going flat out for a 5K, where you're probably anaerobic for a lot of that.
Oh, you'll be anaerobic for the whole thing.
Yeah, so you're not in weight loss mode anyway.
Well, look, as you said, none of it's weight loss mode.
None of it's weight loss mode, but I'm just thinking for the type of person who's like, well, running is the thing I'm comfortable with, I want to do more of it, maybe a better way is not go out and try and smash the 5Ks and beat the lads during the Saturday 5K. It's to acknowledge that this type of work is probably better for you.
For your health.
For your health.
Yeah, absolutely. And even look at caloric expenditure, one of the things we look at during testing is energy expenditure. But bringing it back to the turtle and hare analogy, let's say you go out and you run a 5K, and I'm making these times up in 30 minutes. You're absolutely balls to the wall, flat out, in bits afterwards. Took you 30 minutes. You're probably burning about, 300 or 400 calories. But then if we bring that down and go, I want you to run significantly easier, but I want you to run longer, you're going to end up burning more calories because you're consistently delivering that performance. You're going to have a better return to ratio in regards to how many sessions you do in a week. And it's going to have that cardiovascular positive impact, oxygen utilizing, increasing blood flow, all the positives that are associated with it in the long term.
And isn't it funny, a lot of it will be the non-scientific stuff then as well. You're more likely to do more runs because they're not as taxing on you, and you're like, oh, I actually enjoyed that run as opposed to, that was fucking torture, but I got through it.
I hate this. I hate going out running. I can't believe I have to go and run. I'm like, but what if you just run a bit slower? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually like this. Yeah. This is cool. I could chat to the lads.
It happens to me every single day. More so friends reach out to me, how will I run? I'm like, just run easy. Just take it easy every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can't believe it because it's always, I can't run. You can't run because you run too fast and you do not have a capacity to perform at flat out consistently. But if you just tone it back, you'll be able to deliver much more.
Is it, I'm thinking about why this has come to the forefront of the kind of popular culture. I know there's a lot of podcasts, a lot of health stuff going around at the moment, but like traditionally, we would have been doing zone 2 non-stop all the time because we were just in that kind of doing working the fields and just kind of just being able to work for 8, 9, 10 hours. You have to be in aerobic mode. You can't be in aerobic mode for that time. Is it just a result of the change in the way we live nowadays and how sedentary we all are? That now we're trying to, I listened to someone else the other day talking about, like, we literally pay money now to come to places like this to pick heavy things up and put them back down again and to run on ground that moves for us because we just don't have that stimulus in our life anymore. So we pay money to do it. Is the reason this is coming back around again is we're trying to reintroduce that, something that we traditionally had all the time to our lives?
Probably the focus on traditional studies would show that the benefits of it have been there. But I also think the move to more bring science into sport, where people are actually, like, I'm nearly doing this 13 years. There's people that I've worked with for a lot of time during that are still like, now I understand. Like, I'm reducing their sessions from 42 in a week to 8, and they're delivering more performance, better performance than they ever have. Yeah. Because less is more in that sense. There's also a lot more access to wearables, a lot more data collection available. It's a lot more simplistic to gather that information. But like you said, people are coming back. And a lot of times, a lot of stuff comes back to the basics that we've done all the time, but delivered in a much better way. There's a lot more studies behind it. The science is getting a lot better around it.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not sexy, so.
But also the other negative on it, not negative on it, but there's companies that are absolutely specializing in this predicted zones and predicted values. And like, the problem with predicted values and predicted zones is they do not take into account individual physiology. I'll give you a prime example today. I had a woman into me. She wants to do Ironman. She said she's bought into heart rate training, but it doesn't work. And I was like, what do you mean it doesn't work? She goes, I have to run at 130. Says who? Says this person who is a person that is in not knowledge of heart rate training zones. But she mentions to me I have a really high heart rate. I ask her, what does she consider high? 180, 190. I'm like, okay, that's not really that high, but let's get you tested. Let's see what's going on. She was at 130. She was in a recovery zone 1. She didn't turn anaerobic till heart rate 177. So her zone 2 had her walking and the buy-in wasn't there. She wasn't progressing. She was upset. It wasn't getting her anywhere because she was walking. This woman wants to go and compete Ironman.
But the voice was telling her she was in
So
zone 2.
somebody had told her that her zone 2 stops at 130.
Oh, okay.
So she's not allowed to exceed it. But I was like, well, now we've tested you. We now have your zone 2. Her zone 2 was 156 to 177. And I was like, you now have my permission to go and use this as your zone 2. She was nearly crying. She's like, I cannot believe I can run at that intensity. And I was like, do you think then you're going to be able to build endurance and that? She's like, yeah, absolutely. So just the concept of predicted zones are scary to be aware of it. And you and your friend do not have the same heart rate. Me and my brother, there's a fact, do not have the same heart rate. And the contributing factors to heart rate individuality is down to how you were born. Do you have a C-section, like were you brought into the world naturally or emergency C-section? Is that going to affect how high your heart rate is? Absolutely.
Can you, because you've said that before, can you explain why that is to people?
Trauma, basically. Coming into the world in a stressed environment, the vagus nerve gets stimulated a different way, and there's just stress in the environment that creates a higher heart rate. Stress in life. Did you smoke? Did you drink? What's your sleep like? Was the stress growing up? Have you intolerances? You know, like there's just so many contributing factors. When you think about it, who is anyone to turn around and go, yeah, you're 30 and you're a male, all right, run at that.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely mind-blowing to think it. It doesn't work. And people get so upset that their zones are max heart rate, have to be done off a max heart rate. Like I have a really, really low max heart rate. I have a really low resting heart rate. I sleep in the 30s. I never get my heart rate over 160, no matter how hard I train. So if I was to use one of these systems, I'd be completely overtrained consistently. I'd be in bits because I'd be always anaerobic. Or then people are saying to me, oh, you're not training hard enough. I'm like, yes, I am. So you have people that wouldn't be knowledgeable within the field of performance that are coaches, and they're screaming at people, you're not getting into your red zone, you're not training hard enough, and they're in bits because their red zone is actually significantly lower. And then you have the other side of it where people are like, you're training too hard. You're in red zone all the time when you're not actually in your red zone. That's green and yellow for you because you have a higher heart rate. So there can be massive mistakes and inaccuracies when people say heart rate training doesn't work. It doesn't work when you don't get tested. It doesn't work if you don't apply it correctly. It doesn't work if you don't give it time. But heart rate training works because it's physiology. Heart rate training works based off your physiology to allow for you to stimulate and adaptate. So remember, this anaerobic stimulation with aerobic adaptation is going to allow for growth as a profile or a fitness profile. But if you're not doing them both, or you're doing them inaccurately, let's say your fast stuff's done, your easy stuff's done too fast, and your fast stuff's done too easy, you pretty much do the same thing every day of the week and expect a different result.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is creating fatigue and stress internally. So using it from a health perspective, you come from a stressful job, you drive white knuckle to go to a spin class, to go in a stressful anaerobic position, and then don't understand why you've no sex drive and you're irritable and you're tired and all you want to do when you go home is have a croissant and kebabs, and because all you're doing is living this stressful, glycolytically depleting environment that has no real complementary factors to what your goal is. But people don't assess their life that way. They're told you need to spin, you need to train hard, and certain promotions of this go hard or go home stuff doesn't help our equation. There is certain aspects of certain trainings in certain sports, in a lot of sports, where we need tough days. I'm not saying we don't, we absolutely do, but the balance is wrong. And when the balance is wrong, injuries, fatigue, you name it, there's just a constant supply of them.
And this is something I think about a lot since talking to you first, is it's all about the intention as well. If the stress is intentional and it's designed as a stimulus to cause an adaptation, amazing.
Brilliant.
But in most of our lives, it's not. It's that low level, constant stress in the background. And then all we're doing, we go to the gym, which we call a stress relief or whatever, is just dumping more on top of that low level, constant background stress.
Like I've taken athletes that would be like high performing athletes, best of their ability, really strong, multiple classes a week, like in gyms at 5 o'clock in the morning, pushing big weights. I'm like, what's your goal? You know what I mean? You've lost your cycle. You've just told me you've lost your cycle and you want to have a baby. What are you doing going to the gym at 5 a.m., getting 5 hours sleep and going doing anaerobic training, not eating because that's what we don't do, because we want to look a certain way, shape. And then you go, right, let me get a hold of you. Let me educate you on your food. Let me educate you on your training. And the next minute they're like, my cycle is back. I've just had a baby. My sex drive is back. I've had clients come into me and one of the things they're talking about is low libido. And then we look at the training load or the fueling type, and within a couple of weeks, like not a couple of weeks, it could be 6 weeks, you've completely transformed how their body is functioning based on training load and fueling. So like that you said, you have to have a goal. Like athletes and health are different. But athletes' health gets affected because they don't train smart. You know, so they're different areas, but they link in together. And then that's where you have to get control of it, where you look at the pros and the cons and the benefits of what you're actually seeking.
And this is where the trap lies a little bit as well, because most of us mere mortals would look at elite athletes and think, geez, they must be awful healthy. When in fact, that unless there's someone who's consciously taking, and they have to take care of their health almost more than someone who's not, because as you said, overtraining is worse than undertraining. Some of these people who run extreme events and marathons are some of the least healthy people for what they're doing, because that takes a massive toll. It's a huge stress on your body. Yeah. But we would look at like the obvious example is like a bodybuilder. Now, some bodybuilders can be very healthy, fine, but they look like an Adonis. They're like the picture of muscular and all this kind of stuff. Often incredibly unhealthy people, because there's such a massive stress on their body.
Even a better example is look at a female bodybuilder. What would you say percentage of female bodybuilders don't have a cycle?
99.9.
Exactly. Like absolutely astronomically high. And you cannot, I don't think anybody can ever argue if a female does not have her cycle because of the way she's fueling and training, that can't be a picture of health.
Yeah.
They might look aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
But that's not
I spoke to Aisling Fox about this, and whatever about fertility and having babies and stuff like that, a lack of a cycle is an indication there's something wrong in your body.
Massive.
There's something going on. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you need it or not, or you want it or not, it's an indication for you. Yeah. If there's something, it's like men having erections in the morning.
Yeah.
If that's not happening, it's an indicator.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Whether you want the erection or not, it doesn't matter. Whether you need to use it or not, it doesn't matter. It's an indicator for you that there's something going on an internal level you should probably look at, which is massive. Just to kind of paint that little story for people about the algorithms. I buy my watch. When I buy my watch, I probably either get a booklet that says are you in this age bracket, or I have a little input where I can put in my weight, my height and all that kind of stuff, and it will tell me then this is your zone 2, you should train in this zone 2. Absolute predicted, based on massive amounts of data pumped into this thing that have literally nothing to do with you as a person.
Yeah, nothing to do with you as a person. There's a couple of points within that. So first of all, your VO2 predictor on a watch is, to me, the biggest joke on the planet. So your VO2 is volume of oxygen consumed per kilogram of body mass. Consumed per kilogram of body mass. Your watch has no clue how much oxygen you're consuming. So
actually, can I ask you before you tell that, how is the watch actually measuring? What's it measuring?
It's not. It's basing performance markers, i.e. speed, cadence, time.
How is it getting your heart rate?
Oh, so it has a radial pickup. So under this is going to have light emitting diodes.
Pick up from the radial.
Yeah, so there's loads in this, right? So first of all, if you're tracking heart rate and you're not having a chest strap that relays information to a watch, it's inaccurate. So like, look at my watch as an example. That's loose. I've hair on my arm. There could be dirt under it, sweat, moisturizer, tan. I don't have tan on. The likes of that stuff. So it's going to be completely inaccurate. I said it to you before. Keelan calls me Mr. Wolf. I run with 2 watches. I run one that goes to my chest strap, and this is my GPS. This one's 42 to 45 beats different than my chest strap. So if
42 beats different?
Yeah, higher. So my heart rate's at 120. It's at 160 on this.
That's not insignificant.
That's
outrageous.
This is the problem, okay? So first of all, we've predicted zones which aren't specific to you. They're done off a study of a group of your profile, done on times and paces or whatever the case is. So it's saying to you, all right, Dan, I want you to run at this. So first of all, you're running. A girl came in again and he says, I have this astronomically high heart rate. And I was like, oh, why? What's up? Oh, my watch always says I'm at 180, 190, whatever. I was like, all right, Grant. I know within 3 to 4 minutes what way this test is going to go. I'm on nearly 20,000 and I'm like, there's no way her heart rate's getting anywhere near what she's telling me it's getting to. I think she peaked out at 162 or 163. I was like, the problem's your watch. You're not in your red zone. You're not even in your green zone. You know, so first of all, you buy a watch, you're going to go, right, I'm going to go zone training. You type your age in and it uses generally a calculation 220 minus your age as your max, right? So let's say you're 40 years of age, 180, and then to go your zone 2 or your green zone or what would be aerobic, you multiply it by about 75%. And that's it.
It's just the basic maths equation.
That's it. All right. So all of a sudden we're...
What about your vagus nerve stimulation and your C-section?
So then we're looking at 140s, 130s, and people are like, it's boring. Then we have the inaccuracy of the watch in terms of its tracking. You have other systems there. People get infatuated with colors. So you come to me, like say I've worked with 4 zones, blue, green, yellow, and red. And your green zone is up to far as 160, let's say. I'm just making this up. But based on your watch, that has you training in your yellow zone because that's the color system.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, all we care about is live number. So if you come and get a test, we care about live number. But see the pressures and the wearables and the social media and the Stravas, everybody wants to post all this stuff and look at my runs, look how great I am. I have so many athletes that work directly with me that I'm like, what are you posting that stuff for? You're talking inaccuracy because that's not what you're stating it is. So reining people back in when they get these wearables. I'm a massive fan. I'm not affiliated with any brand. If you're serious about heart rate training, you get a heart rate strap. Now that strap can go to a wearable, i.e. your watch. If you're training indoors, it can go to a phone or an iPad. But your bicep pickups and your radial pickups are just not inaccurate. There's just too many inaccuracies with them. Straight away then, they're inaccurate in their tracking, but their predicted values are inaccurate. A lot of times people go, oh, my VO2 is X. And I'm like, your VO2 is significantly lower than what you think it is. No, my watch says it. But your watch isn't connected to you. And have you updated your weight? You're 3 kilo or 3 stone heavier than what you were when you bought that watch. So your VO2 is no concept. It doesn't make sense on it. So then you throw a spanner into the works and people are like, oh, no, it doesn't work. Or I'm always in this, I'm always in that. So you have to be aware. Now, don't get me wrong. Every once in a while, we do get someone in and it's spot on. And their reaction is, told you.
Yeah,
what am I paying money for? And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. It is working for you.
Clock is right twice a day and all that.
Yeah, so I like it.
Yeah.
New phrase coming in. But then you have the other side of it where you have different disciplines. Triathletes are going to have different thresholds for run and bike. So I used to have, when I started my company, I used to tell people, okay, multiply this by a certain percentage. And then I just got proved wrong all the time. So your body's ability to deliver oxygenated blood or perform aerobically will differ from disciplines. The stimulus or the idea remains the same. Train easy to train hard, use an RP scale or whatever it might be. But your threshold on a bike is not the same as a run, is not the same as a pool, is not the same on a rower. You can't train using the same numbers. But again, that's something people fall into the trap of. Oh, my watch says I'm in green.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Zone 2 training, is that a colour? Is it a green or yellow zone or one of these?
For me and for most, it's going to be green or blue.
It's green, okay.
It's never yellow or red.
It's never yellow or red.
No.
And that's getting into anaerobic.
But then again, like I always say to people, you can call your zones fruit or vegetables. If you don't understand the principles, it's pointless.
Yeah, it is.
And I've said it before. I've had people ring me up, ask me, what about their 8X zone? I'm like, your 8X zone? What about my Y zone? What about my 7-2B? I'm like, but why? I'm not telling people to do this. I like to keep things simple. I like to keep things on 3 zones personally. Warm up, cool down and recovery, steady state endurance or speed. And if you think about it, it's below threshold 1, in between threshold 1 and threshold 2, or above threshold 2.
Yeah.
Now you'll have people will have massive gaps between each threshold because of the way they train, but we can manipulate and change them. But people want, again, this sexy posting Strava or Map My Run or whatever it is, when realistically you're overcomplicated. You're not actually thinking about your objective. You're just thinking about what your wearable is. It's like people go, oh, I didn't wear my heart rate monitor, I didn't do the training. What?
So how do you expect the results?
No, but they're like, oh, I didn't map it today. That means I didn't
I missed it. Yeah.
Oh, I never wore my watch today.
Yeah.
I didn't get any steps. I'm like, did you do the same thing as you always did?
Yeah.
Well, you got your steps. Like.
That's actually one of the things I say about tracking sleep as well. It becomes, you develop an anxiety around the tracking of the sleep, which affects your sleep more than
it's like
the
watches
benefits.
saying, oh, you need 3 days to recover after that session. You're like, I feel
actually quite good.
I'm feeling great, thanks very much.
Yeah.
You know, so the wearables, the predicted values, just be aware to take them with a pinch of salt in regards to.
I'm going to ask you a question that I know you hate answering because I ask you all the time.
It depends.
But it's because I'm a realist, right? And I know that most people listening are not serious enough. This is not a judgment thing. Not serious enough about this to go and get a heart rate training, get involved. It sounds intimidating, etc., etc. Is there a way to get a lot of the benefits of this type of training without actually tracking the heart rate and getting tested and stuff? Like, is there I don't know, I'm asking you, like, what's the general thing everyone should do? But, like, what's the general thing everyone do? Because a lot of people listen and they're like, I do all this stuff, but I want the benefits.
Before I answer the question, I think your opening statement is incorrect, where people are unwilling to go and do this, because realistically, if you want to invest in your health and your longevity, this is a very, very small investment. And that's not me promoting my company in terms of a heart rate monitor and going and get tested. But realistically, a couple of £100 can put serious structure into what you're trying to achieve.
Oh, I believe you.
Now I forget your question.
I'll ask you the question.
Okay,
again.
yeah. So RPE scale, we can use.
You disagree with me. I get to disagree with you back.
Yeah, go on.
I'm just saying that a lot of these conversations, there's always like I'm all on board with what you've said there.
Yeah.
I still haven't done it.
Yeah.
And I still keep asking you.
We have
like,
an opinion
Seán,
about that reason,
so,
though.
I know. Yeah. I'm so busy, man. Like, what can? And you're like, all right, go on, 40 minutes, steady state, don't be out of breath. And I'm like, okay, grand, I can do that. Why don't I just go get the heart rate monitor? Because like most people, I'm like, that's an extra step of effort. I'm so busy, I can't do it. So obviously, I'm not taking my health seriously enough.
No, I wouldn't say, and that's probably wrong of me to say you're not taking it seriously enough. I'm not directing this at you, but sometimes people don't like me to tell them that they're not as good as they think they are, where we need to get them to slow down. To answer the question in the background of what you asked me, like you've said there, let's do some steady state. What's steady state? Having a conversation isn't me saying, yep, no, that's answering questions. You need to be able to talk like I'm talking on a run. The easiest one I say is you need to be able to put an order in on a phone. If you can't hold a conversation when you're doing your easy running, you're not doing your easy running. And that's simple.
I'm laughing because I told you when Connor took me and Brian up the mountains and we went within 5 minutes, we went from like kind of all having the chat to Connor just doing a monologue and every now and again me going, yeah. Fucking dying.
Well, that's because you're running up a hill.
And he was quoting poetry and saying quotes and stuff like that. And he was in complete bottom level zone 2, just cruising, and we were dying.
So I think the conversation trumps RPE scale. So for anyone that doesn't understand RPE scale, rate of perceived exertion, basically it's a scale that you operate from 0 to 10, 0 being you're lying in your bed doing absolutely nothing, incredibly comfortable, to 10 being maximal exhaustion. My problem with RPE scale is people don't understand RPE.
Yeah.
And I love this. We have an RPE scale on our treadmills and we're testing. And I say to someone, how are you feeling? Number 5, moderate. Within 3 minutes, they're at maximum exhaustion. You do not go from 5 on an RPE scale to 10 within 3 minutes unless you know the link between. I love this when I say to people, how are you feeling? And they've no comprehension of what easy should be. You do not go from moderate to flat out maximum exhaustion by 2 increases in speed. Like you
So you're saying they're actually at like a 7 or an 8 when you asked them, they said they're at a 5?
Because remember, RPE, we're looking for you to be comfortable 3, 4, no way past 5 on RPE scale, which is considered moderate intensity. But we're talking about moderate intensity for unlimited quantity of time, not moderate intensity for 3K and then have to stop because you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with using RPE scale. Every single day I smile to myself because people don't understand it. They don't understand what's easy. I was impressed today. A couple of clients were like, no, moderate, or like 6 on an RPE scale when they were still aerobic, which was very interesting. So a lot of times people tell me they're 5 on an RPE scale when they're actually anaerobic. I'm like, and this is why they don't understand why training easy has to be actually easy, because you're not facilitating the growth.
And I suppose that gets even deeper into like even your own sense of resilience. Like, I'm a 2 here and you're actually a 5, or people might have the opposite. A lot of that comes down to your own mental conditioning too.
Yeah, and then
it's very subjective.
Then there's ego, and subjective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we don't like to be overtaken by people that we think we're better off in a run. I know I said it before, coming in doing runs, recovery runs, and girls at reception here saying to me, "You're not going running, Seán?" I'm like, "Yeah, did you? I went in a 6-minute 10 kilometer there for 6K, like not sweating, nothing, but learning to embrace." Going out in fresh air and just getting out to do some easy training, to know that I'm going to smash a tough session tomorrow that's part of my training regime, that is an anaerobic stimulus that is required, but we can have easy days, so train easy to train hard. But it's about understanding the goal at the end of the day as well.
I something just clicked in my head there. I know, and the voice of the people here. I didn't know what I was trying to say, but what I obviously I spend a lot of time with you, and I love the approach, the science. I have a personal interest in it. Fascinates me, and like you said there, once you embrace the process, it's so liberating. But in order to embrace it, you have to be confident in the information that you have, and there's so much bullshit out there. I think that's the biggest part of the problem here. How is the average person supposed to know, unless they happen to come across a podcast or something that they listen to you or someone refers them? They're listening to 15 different people in a day on, like, I'm gonna get bashed for this, but I use this example quite a lot now. Take the Diary of a CEO podcast. You could literally have 2 episodes back to back with 2 industry experts. Like, I've written 50 books, and how's the average person supposed to know the difference? And they're quoting 1 million studies. They're saying literally the opposite thing, like black and white opposite thing. And these are 2 experts, and I'm a painter. I've no exposure to health and wellness and science and biology, and I'm a painter. How am I supposed to know who's right and who's wrong? And until I get a definitive answer that I'm comfortable with, I can't embrace the process, because like, is this actually working? Then I try it doesn't work. I try something else that doesn't work.
I don't think, to answer specifically the question in regards to my area of expertise, I don't think you'll find one study that states that low intensity training won't complement your life.
Say that again for me.
So looking at the field that I'm in now with conflicting reports in regards to where your heart rate should be and yada, yada, if we can embrace what we've spoke about, you will not find, I don't think, a single study that will show you training easy or running easy or applying easy concepts of training regularly to your life will have any negative impact.
Tell it to David Goggins.
It won't have a negative impact on his life. It will have a negative impact on his performance goals.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
I completely agree with you. And as a civilian not versed in this stuff, it's really hard to tell the difference sometimes, because you're like, you should get up at 5 a.m. and do all these things, and that's how you're going to get better. I'm like, okay. At no point has he said to me, but you should really train easy 80% of the time, because it's going to improve.
Yeah, and you should get 8 hours sleep, Mary, because, you know, like getting up at 5 is not really going to help these things, and running on broken shin bones definitely isn't for everybody. Yeah. But
I was saying it to Scott there earlier on, it's like in years and years of being in the medical industry and now being in this world where I'm talking to people like yourself, it always comes back to the same things. The lowest hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. Sleep well, eat well, don't kill yourself, move regularly and often, have good quality relationships, and manage your stress.
Like, one of the things I always promote for my company in any service we do, and I'll be very open and honest with you, I don't have any magic solutions. I do the basics right. That's built off your physiology, and the lowest hanging fruit is an approach that we have in many different things. And like recently enough, I got a phone call off someone that's a high rocks athlete that I know quite well, and he's talking about his heart rate's elevating this and his heart rate's doing this and he can't do that and he's going to see a specialist, he's going to get his bloods done, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, let's tone it back here, pal. What time do you train at every day? 5 o'clock in the morning. What time do you go to bed at? Maybe 12 if I'm lucky. Right, let's change that. But I have to get my training done. Well, you just told me that you're having a negative impact on your life. Right? Are you fueling when you're doing these high rock sessions? No, I'm doing them fasted. So you're doing an anaerobic session fasted. Okay, so you've no glycogen, so you've no energy. Right, let's get that corrected, right? Let's reduce the quantity of sessions you're doing from 7 to 4, and let's look at the quality of bringing in zone 2, yada, yada. He rings me today, and he's like, you're right. I was like, yeah, did you get your bloods done? He goes, no. I was like, yeah, of course you didn't. You didn't need to, because you're not critically evaluating your life. You're just thinking, oh, there's a magic pill to fix this. There's no magic pill to fix anything in regards to performance. There is, but they're either illegal or very expensive. It's about, like you said, doing the basics right, doing them consistently, and that will win constantly. Yeah,
I feel like that's a great filter for people to use for all of this stuff. Like, if it seems overly complex or new or really nuanced or fancy, it's probably unnecessary.
Like the metabolic testing we do, separate to what we're talking about now, is about obviously energy balance and caloric expenditure, and highlighting to people that if you want to have chocolate cake on a Wednesday morning and you account for your calories in your goal, you can have that. Or you're not demonizing food. You're not cutting a food group out, and educating people behind that you can actually understand that you can eat a sandwich and still lose weight. In regards to that education aspect, people just want a tablet.
Yeah.
Ozempac's through the roof. What does Ozempic do? It nulls your appetite, so you reduce your caloric input. So you create a calorie deficit, you lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a part of the unfortunate thing in social media, a lot of the people who say exactly what you've just said there, they omit the fact that if you do just have chocolate cake, you can lose weight in chocolate cake and Big Macs.
Yeah.
There's other things to consider as well.
Of course. And I'm not highlighting that.
I don't know, you're not saying that.
We will always promote us or our clients to be as nutritionally aware, increasing the great quality of nutrition in the role of energy production, B vitamins, sodium, potassium, magnesium, likes of that, the background stuff of it. But I think people are too hard on themselves, and the all or nothing approach doesn't work. We're going definitely off topic and we won't go too far on it, but the likes of bringing it back to what I've said, there is no magic to this. Consistently turn up, consistently do the basics right, and you'll consistently improve the quality of your life or your performance.
Yeah.
But looking for, like, people, a guy in today and he's running a marathon in 4 weeks. I said, pal, I can't do anything for you. He only told me when I was putting his mask on. He's like, I can't help you. You're running a marathon in 4 weeks. I said, I can give you the foundations that you will apply to what I'm asking you. I can optimize your fueling strategies because we now know caloric expenditure to match it. But the work you need to do it's too far away. You know, because...
So we can look at the next marathon.
Yeah, that's what I said to him. I said, we can now lay the foundations down, but we're not going to be able to change what we're going to do between now and then.
Yeah.
So the magic pill doesn't work.
Okay.
But again,
But zone 2 is the magic pill.
but zone 2 takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's the problem. It does take time. And I always say people don't just get this. It takes time.
You mentioned the number there, 12 weeks. What's 12 weeks? What could you expect within a 12-week period?
And you know what? I'm not quoting studies on this 12-week. This is 13 years of 20,000 VO2 tests or performance tests, working closely with athletes. I feel that 12-week marker is a real good indicator of where we see adaptation. So you will cover more distance for less effort. Your heart rate won't drift or decouple. So this is one of the things with zone 2. I'm going to make this pace up. You're going to run a 6-minute kilometer in your zone 2, but 3 kilometers in, you're now in zone 3 and you need to slow down. So what's happening is drift or decoupling. Your heart rate is elevating because you're not aerobically developed. Your foundation isn't solid enough to prevent that stroke or the drift of your heart rate. All of a sudden, the feedback is, I've done 5K, I've done 6K, my heart rate didn't elevate. So you're becoming more aerobically sound in that aspect. So you'll cover more distance, you'll stop drift, you'll recover better, your legs won't be as sore. But the big buy-in where people are like, I'm running faster for the same heart rate.
Yeah.
And like I said about my own change, I took about a minute per kilometer off in less than 12 weeks for the same heart rate last year.
Okay.
Like a minute.
Yeah.
I've had people take 2 minutes per kilometer off over a year. I think podcast 1 we spoke about, 2 girls came to me, heart rate 158, they were running 7-minute 28 kilometers. Within a year for heart rate 158, they were running 5:30s.
Which is nuts. Yeah.
Like a 2 kilometer, like listen to it, 2 minutes per kilometer. Not over distance, it's consistent distance. And for them at the start, they're like, I can't run that slow. I'm like, no, you can.
Yeah. I also think for many of us listening to this, 12 weeks is fine. And if you are an athlete and you are trying to kind of peak for a specific event, et cetera, this is all very helpful. But realistically, as human beings, we should be looking at this and saying, okay, this is something I need to adapt into my lifestyle forever and ever and ever.
Well, I can show you umpteen messages. Seán, how long do I do this for?
Yeah.
You do forever. Forever.
Yeah.
And you know, I always give GA players a hard time working closely with some of them, and they're like, okay, so I just stop after 12 weeks doing this. I'm like, no, you do this consistently. Another example, I was injured last year. I didn't run for 4 months. I ran Christmas Day. I ran 4K Christmas Day. My first kilometer was a 4:02. And then I did a 4:20, 4:22, 4:22, and 4:26. And I got home and I said, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I've just gone out and done the complete opposite of what I've told people to do. And at that point, I said, I am not running less than 5-minute 40 kilometers for 12 weeks. And all I've done is just run slow and easy. I've had no injuries. I've had no pain in my calves. I'm running consistently 3-4 times a week because I'm building this base. I'm building this aerobic capacity back up. So it's about understanding that the journey takes time. If you're someone that's listening to this that always gets injured, that can never last the full game, if you're always in a certain position where you always speak about how good you want to be, but you're not willing to buy into the realization that you're not that good physiologically yet, because you're training too hard all the time. If you're someone that's injured all the time, there's a very good chance the quantity of the high intensity, or what you might consider not high intensity, the quantity of your training or the management of your training load is wrong. And that's where people really buy into it again. I haven't been injured in 2 years. What happened to you? I start heart rate training and bring in more zone 2. Yeah. My 5K time is up or down. My marathon time's down. I'm not injured. So it's changes in all aspects.
I have one final topic to wrap this up. Before I do, you brought up GAA, so I'm going to ping it. I always have a GAA question for you. Bike row ski for GAA pre-season. What do you think?
Chocolate teapot comes to mind.
Yeah.
As useful as that.
Why?
It's not sport specific.
Yeah.
Okay, you can use it. Sorry.
We're not doing it, by the way, but there's a couple of
mightn't be as chocolate teapot-ish. I had a cracking story today of a GA club doing 6 kilo punches warm up off their spin bike. Some great crack.
6 kilo punches
off the spin bike to warm up for their GA.
Why?
I don't know, the intensity of the class. So they're on the spin bike and then they get off and they all get 6 kilo dumbbells. And
so spinning for GA athletes.
Okay, so let's get a bit more specific. Cross training, if injuries, great. If you have someone that has a really low...
Sorry, I'm just going to keep doing this. Cross training, just for people who might not know.
Sorry, you're not sport specific. So if you're in a field sport, you're running. But if you're injured, you might go on a bike or cross or ski erg or something like that. There's areas where we can bring it in. We obviously want our athletes to be as sport-specific programming as possible. But if you're injured, or in my case, we had a club where they were so aerobically underdeveloped that I felt the boys would benefit more from aerobic base building on a bike because they'd have to walk and they weren't going to buy into it. So as sports...
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, so I'm like, all right, boys, I need 12 weeks of aerobic base building.
No one's going to walk
You
for
and
12
you
weeks.
have to walk around the pitch together because you're not
Yeah.
aerobically developed. If we can get them on the bike, they'll feel like they're producing better force for it.
Very good.
If you're injured, you can cross-train naturally. But we want you to be... So again, bringing bike row ski into this situation, or any type of training module that's high intensity anaerobic delivering. The problem with GAA is that you get knocked out of championship October, November, you do nothing, you bring everyone back in January to put on a bit of weight, they've done no training, and you flog them anaerobically. What happens? They don't turn up. There's not consistency in the training. They get injured.
They don't get fitter.
They don't get fitter. The season starts and they get injured. And they get knocked out of the championship. They get blown away in by teams 15 minutes to go. They have no subs left because they've used them all. And then you look back and go, well, what are we going to do different? Oh, we're just going to make them get sick day one. So the concepts of, and I'm not targeting bike row ski, it plays a role in the stimulation without question. But remember, it's not the be all and end all. We have multiple different types of training that will complement our goal. But if you can't run consistently, but you can ski erg, is it really going to play a role in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, and I like this conversation's a funny one because I get there are potential benefits, but realistically, in the real world, you've got 3 days in a week. There are much better things you can do with each one of those 3 days.
Yes, but a lot of times the problem is people want to get bang for their buck, where they seem that they've put the group through a hard training session and the boys are getting sick in bins.
Yeah.
Okay, might look good as a coach. You're thinking, yeah, I really got this stimulus going, but
Do you know what? It doesn't look good anymore because everyone listens to these podcasts.
Yes,
now. It's
they
like
do.
our players are saying it to me. They're like, holy shit, every manager I've ever had. And they're now, I've noticed about a lot of our lads as well, they're now not demanding to be bollocksed after a training session.
But I think, this comes down to personal responsibility.
Yeah.
So you may have a team, and I get the coaches have a very short period of time with a panel of 26, 34 lads, girls, whatever it might be.
Loads of variation.
Yeah. And what they need to do is they need to slam them because they need to be saying, right, I'm going to provide the stimulation. But your personal responsibility, if you're training hard Monday, you train easy Tuesday. Training hard Wednesday, you train easy Thursday. And all of a sudden, everything moves the right way. But training hard Monday, PB 5K Tuesday. Training hard Wednesday, PB 5K Thursday. Friday, you can't move.
And what about similarly training hard Monday, doing nothing Tuesday because you're bollocks, training hard Wednesday, doing nothing Thursday, nothing.
Is it as bad?
Which is the typical gap player. Like,
Yeah.
So you're not really getting the adaptation.
But even think about using zone 2 as a blood flowing, increasing, nutrients delivering recovery stage. You know, like it just trumps everything.
Yeah.
Like
It's brilliant.
it's just, there's no negative to it.
Yeah.
There will be no negative to it.
I even found, and it wasn't zone 2 for me, it was walking, which was it was way below my zone 2.
How do you know?
That's a fantastic question. It's an assumption. I think I'm better than I am. You're calling me out here in the podcast. I'm assuming it was lower than I'm relatively trained for a football player.
I hope so.
I even just by doing the walk though, that active recovery made a huge difference to my performance, and not even how I felt. My performance in the next training session was like, I actually feel a little bit better performing here now because I've given my body a chance to kind of recover a little bit and adapt with the active recovery.
Yeah, it is. It's magic. Look, it is magic, but it's magic when it's done right.
Okay, on to the last piece of magic for this podcast: nasal breathing.
It's a whole podcast in itself.
It's a whole podcast in itself. There's a couple of areas with nasal breathing. I did mention, and I'm going to say this in the podcast now, so you're going to be stuck with this one. We had a conversation about the potential of nasal breathing for weight loss. So Sean says, breathe through your nose, lose weight. That's going to be a clip for the podcast. Nasal breathing for performance.
Yes.
Talk to me about nasal breathing for performance.
So nasal breathing for performance works because you will have a higher filtration system of usage of oxygen through your nose. So in this room right now, and wherever anybody's listening to this, there's 20.8% oxygen. We inhale and we exhale. If we inhale through our mouth, the average usage will be 4% plus. So we blow back out 16s, high 15s. When we breathe through our nose, we consume more oxygen. So we have a higher rich content of oxygenated blood in the body. So we'll use a kind of 6 to 7%. Now it can vary obviously with individuals. But if we use more oxygen, we have ability to perform aerobically at higher intensities. So the force production aerobically goes for longer. And bringing it back to my statement, breathe through your nose, lose weight, your body will use more fat for fuel when it's oxygenated. So we need oxygen to burn fat.
So in theory.
in theory, but don't be sitting on your couch there, Mary, just breathing through your nose. It's not going to work.
Open the opener to eat the biscuits.
It won't work. But there's massive markers. And myself and Patrick McKeown did a great podcast off the back of the one that you spoke about.
Brilliant.
And it was funny because he didn't realize the reasonings behind why some training methods were getting done the way they were until I spoke, and I hadn't heard about them. So like getting people up to certain intensities where they're nasal breathing or nose mouth and mouth mouth. But in theory, your nasal breathing, you have a much better ability to perform aerobically for longer. That's it. Like that's the punchline on it. We've athletes that have come in and I'll know straight away, you're a nasal breather. Yeah, you can see their aerobic development. You know, it takes time though. I know the benefits of it. I've spoke to Patrick in detail. I haven't given myself enough time to do it. And I'd be
very hard.
My first critic, you know, very, very, I'm going to go train easy. And then all of a sudden you're mouth breathing. It does take time, you know, like anything, it takes time. But there is a massive, massive performance benefit in sport through nasal breathing.
At what point, I discussed this briefly with Patrick as well, at what point is, because when we were talking, like he was saying, realistically we should be nasal breathing for everything. We're designed to nasal breathe, not to mouth breathe. But there is a point, like there's certain activities like singing, obviously, or where you require a huge demand, a huge volume of oxygen. You're restricted by your nasal passage because obviously it's a more narrow way of getting air in. But like team sports, for example, let's leave running for a second. Field team sports, soccer, gar, rugby, whatever. Realistically, could you train yourself to a point where you can nasal breathe for most of those sports?
Yeah, I think so.
It's so hard.
I think so because I've had athletes complete the VO. I've had one athlete do a full VO2 test nasally
VO2
and scored a 73 VO2 max.
Wow.
Full thing. Only one.
Is it who I think it is?
James McManus.
No, it's not who I think it was.
So James McManus, first Irishman planning to climb Mount Everest without supplementary oxygen, working with Leo Daniel, came to me originally with this concept, and like he has the nasal wideners, the strips, he does breathing techniques, phenomenal what way he's changed as an athlete, but the full test nasally. So if he's running 17.5 kilometers an hour on a 6% gradient, you can play a sport. Now, where there's combat or there's impact, it's going to be different.
Of course.
But in terms of intensity, there's no reason why I can't. Or even I told this story loads of times when Leo rang me and said he wants to run the Dublin Marathon with his mouth tape shut and do no run training. I laughed at him, and he completed the marathon with just nasal breathing, took the strip off at the very end. Like he did I think it was a sub 5 hour marathon with his mouth tape shut. So I think anything's trainable. There is massive, massive benefits in doing it without question, because of the positive impact it has on aerobic function, which we've spoke about for the last, I can't see the clock.
Yeah, I can see it.
But he's not telling me. The benefit is going to come through that. Unquestionable.
Then we get into the world of compounding as well, because if you can go and do your zone 2 cardio, which is in a very controlled manner and you know exactly what to expect while you're nasal breathing.
Win-win.
Win-win.
Win-win, because you're going to get that adaptation much quicker.
Yeah. I don't know if it's your area, if you're aware of like specific techniques to train this or practice this.
No.
I spoke with Patrick and he was talking about low, slow and deep. And up until that point, everything I'd heard ever about breathing, not nasal breathing specifically, was like the real intense Wim Hof style. Like, and Patrick was like, and it was much more difficult for me to try the low, slow and deep than it was because you can do the whole.
I remember when I listened to the podcast you and Patrick did, I was driving home from Cork and I nasal breathed the whole way home. And when you started talking to me about it there, I was conscious, like,
I always get conscious.
I've just got to do it now, just for the crack.
It's really interesting you said that. When I spoke to Patrick, I told him that one of the places I practiced it was in the car. It's now almost become subconscious for me in the car. So that's the one little kind of flag in my head going, okay, you can make this happen in other parts.
Now, I've tried it multiple times over the years. When I say try, I've tried it on a run and I've gone, I can't do this.
I tried it on a bike once, 3 seconds in, I was like, can't do it, I'm going to die.
Yeah, like it's not like, sorry, I don't like to use the word can't, but I'm unable to do this right now.
I'm sure currently taxing me too
if
much.
I was to be trained to do it, but it's very difficult, but the rewards are absolutely there to be seen with the quality improvements of athletes, and I've seen them over very short periods of time working with the likes of Leo's clients and things like that it's been eye-opening.
The fact that this is coming from somebody who tests people and like lives and breathes data for a living is giving me faith.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's the data that I can interpret and I can see the functional or what's called fractional exchange of gas, that they're using a higher percentage of oxygen than I am. And in turn, we know that's going to have a positive impact on performance.
Yeah.
Like I can see it. I can see it during the test. And then again, if we think about it in a more longer term, if we're going to go ultra, they're going to burn fat in terms of a fuel for longer. because the lower the intensity, the more fat that's going to be utilized. We still need to think about fueling and the role of carbohydrate, but the body's ability to utilize fat as a fuel is going to increase then. It's phenomenal what it can actually do for you as an athlete. But if you're someone that's listening to this and thinking, I'm going to go running, I'm going to go nasal breathing, I'm going to get skinny.
Best of luck. Best of luck on any one of those three things.
Yeah,
do you hear that now, Scott? Nasal breathing for running ultramarathons. Scott's 0 to 100 kilometers. We're starting.
That's who I spoke about when I said 0 to 100 in a year. I don't even think you copped it.
I didn't cop it, no. Do you tape your mouth when you sleep?
Do I know?
Have you ever?
No.
Try it, please.
Okay.
And come back to me in the next podcast.
Patrick gave me tape.
Did he give you tape?
He sent me it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Try taping your mouth when you sleep. It is one of the... Because you're asleep, it's much easier to do it because your body just adapts. I found that a little prep before you get into bed, giving yourself 5 or 10 minutes of nasal breathing, low, slow, deep, all that kind of stuff really helps, because when you get into bed and you put the tape on, you immediately, your nose is like, oh, I can't breathe.
I felt after the podcast and stuff like that, I think I was more bought into, even when I was in bed, I was like, I'm just breathing through my nose here.
Yeah.
The car was great though. I thought it was...
The car's brilliant. I don't know why it's easier in the car, but it is.
I tend to ring people when I'm in the car, so that stopped. But then I was just like, nasal breathing. I can do it in the car, no problem. But once you start to bring activity and heart rate elevates... Yeah.
And actually, speaking of activity and heart rate elevating, if my son wakes up in the middle of the night and I have my mouth taped, I'm like, fuck's sake, because it's this anxiety you have in your head. Like, I know I'm losing all these benefits now, and I can't go in and talk to him, so I have to take off the tape. Oh, fucking tape's coming off now. Then my nose is clogged because I'm like, could you go back to sleep?
Or else he's like, what's that in your face, Daddy?
I come in with the blue light blocking glasses and my mouth taped. He's like, what the fuck is going on?
Am I dreaming here?
What is this? Try it and come back and let me know, because it's one of the things that I had the least faith in, that had the most profound effect on me, that I still don't do often enough. I try to do it every night, but sometimes I forget. And the difference when you wake up, even if you sleep well, like you always say, people don't know where they are on the scale of feeling good or not good. You'll realize, oh, I thought I was sleeping well. Holy shit. It's incredible. It's incredible. Now, I might be overstating this for some people, but
I'm in.
Profound effect for me. I had a podcast with James McCormick yesterday, and he said the same thing. He tapes his mouth every night. And when you don't do it, you notice the difference. Like, after you've done it for a few weeks and then you don't do it, you're like, why am I not doing this anymore? Like, you feel like a completely different person. It's outrageous.
Yeah, listening to Patrick was great on that. It was mad, the podcast you did with him.
I didn't understand, like when we did our first one, like the depth we could go into with VO2 and aerobic training. I did not understand the depth you can go into with, it's like, you talk to some people like, all he's saying is breathe through your nose. Like, there's so much more to it, but
That's
essentially that is it. Yeah. Like, all you're really saying is
train
like,
easy.
Train easy. Yeah. But like, we've just done an hour and 3 minutes on like a few different small parts of it, and there's loads more you could talk about. But simple things with massive effects. And thank you so much for sharing that with us.
No bother.
Maybe we should explain at the end of the podcast where we are today.
I was just about to say,
we actually didn't acknowledge it at all.
We'll
go to the wide shot now. The people like our Prowler. This is actually one of the Prowlers with the gears on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Owen Lacey unfortunately introduced me to one of these. Absolute horror show, but we're in West Park Fitness in Tala, and your office is just around the corner here. Yeah. So if people want to come and see it, this is where they come and see it.
Yeah, this is where they come in. Not this setup, it won't look like this. But
we'll keep it here.
This is cool. Where we're based, West Park Fitness. I've been here for 13 years, so we do all our performance testing here. This is our home. This is where we do our Dublin-based stuff, but January was the biggest year we've ever had, and I was out of here more than I was in here due to travel to clubs and companies and things like that. So we do travel anywhere to provide our testing, but this is home. I've been here since 6:45 this morning. I was training, and it's now just gone 11:10. So
11:10.
I spend a lot of time here. It's great. It's amazing.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it. Big shout out then to Scott Dagg over in the corner here as well.
We've no cameras on him.
Unfortunately, but we'll stick in an Instagram picture of Scott up on the screen here.
Just like that.
For helping us set up this incredible set today. And I'm sure we've many more podcasts to do, so we'll keep it tipping.
Absolutely, my man.
Zone 2, tape your mouth, nasal breathing. Let's go. Let's go.
I didn't expect it to go mouth breathing or tape your mouth, but let's go zone 2. Let's get the basics.
Right, the basics. Let's go zone 2. Seán, thank you as always.
No bother. And look, if there's questions, I always say to people, feel free to directly reach out to me. You'll tag me on everything. You can
tag in everything, but at Health Matters.
At Health Matters IRE.
IRE.
Yeah. So all the educational reels that yours truly has done
that
are up there. But there's a lot of content up there for you to listen to as well. So a lot of times I direct people to that rather than saying, look, all your questions are going to be answered here.
To be fair, over the last year, like, all of the questions have been answered multiple times over and over again. So there's lots of information. Like I know a lot of times I say follow people on Instagram, and genuinely, if you're interested in this stuff, go on Instagram and that's a good way to spend a half an hour scrolling on Instagram.
Yeah.
Is to go through and like each one has a title. You'll know exactly what you're getting. It'll break it down in 60 seconds. There's just some serious value in there.
Yeah, and look, if there's questions, just reach out to me. I am generous with my time to a point where I'm like, why am I doing this?
Because you care, Seán.
Yes, I do. So if there's questions, just let me know.
Okay, lovely. Seán, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Peace.
Thank you.